So my name is Margaux Schwab. I'm originally from La Tour de Paix in Switzerland, but it's also important for me to say that my mom is Mexican, so I have a strong bond with also this part of the world. And today I'm representing Foodculture Days in Fungi Cosmology. I think it's through, I would say, common connection in between the Gala network, where it's a network between institution and organization and also artists in between Asia, Europe, and Latin America. Mostly, but not only, where I met for the first time through online meetings Lilian and Maria, without even really knowing we were connected also through Pro Helvetia, also because they were supporting them and they were supporting us, and they also put us in contact to see if there was some commonality, some atome crochu, as we say in French, because we were all of us working with like a combination of theory and practice and transdisciplinary perspective in the arts. So I would say also the relationship with fungi is, our work in this field, how art can reconnect us to the environment and to broader question around what makes us human and non-human. So for me, it's interesting because, of course, like I was not an expert in fungi in itself, but the mycelium way of seeing the world is something I identify with. Not only seeing the world, but living the world, right? I think through Foodculture Days, we try to expand our understanding of certain subjects by creating relationship with other geographies, other bodies, other sensibilities, and to transform the mother of the world, like around us, into something that is palpable or palatable for also the public, but also the community of practice. And so in that sense, I think food is very, very important to understand this notion of metabolism of the planet, the cycle of plants, how organisms interact in the body, but also in the landscape. So food or fungi is a way for us to zoom in, zoom out in different scales, to understand those dynamics. And I feel really that if we would connect back to this notion of metabolism, of cycle, of rhythm, of seasonality, we would be able to be to be more in touch with the importance of those cycles. Again, not in a theoretical way, but really in an embodied way. And it has to do with letting things do their things. Also, letting the things happen and the process happen also. The different ways of relating with the world, the different places where we come from, our different backgrounds, our positionality, and at the same time makes it very complementary because we can answer certain doubts or question or reflection from a various angle, and all the time coming back to this question of positionality, of situatedness, where do we speak from, and how that can be complemented with another experience of life or of the practice in different geographies. And so something very beautiful is that a lived experience cannot be denied. Every emotion, every perspective on the world is valid. And I think if we start any co-curation, any collaboration with this deep respect of where the other comes from and the baggage that it has, may it be from practical knowledge, from embodied knowledge, from traumatic knowledge, or from theory, it's potent and it's valid in itself. So learning a lot to listen better to also the other species, but also just people close to me in this project. So the interaction that I see between the artist and the scientist during this art and science interdisciplinary exchange, very basically, I think the lab is a kitchen and the kitchen is a lab also. And if we start doing separation but see the commonalities between the two, I think it can really become a place of production of knowledge, but also of sharing of knowledge in a more democratic way and open way. Of course, when we don't know something, we kind of fear it a bit, and that happens in the kitchen or in the lab in general, or can be also a library or a museum. I think it's just about regaining the tools, right? So understanding how this person works with this tool, how does this person think about this tool, about the way he research. So for me, how art and science came also into my practice or with Food Culture Days is because we always try to counterbalance the theory and the practice, and to keep a critical approach also to what we do within those two fields. And yeah, the artists, the curators, the scientists, I think have really a deep thirst for making sense of what is around us without sometimes understanding the implication of this task, or without sometimes critically addressing the implication of the responsibility of this task. So I'm very excited to move forward in how we can also build a shared feeling of responsibility for the knowledge that we're producing, how we're producing it, with whom we're producing it, because we are in a moment in time that is asking for that, is asking for transparency, but more than transparency, like kind of honesty, in order to build on what has been done in the past, in those both fields, and how we can move forward to build something that could support an alternative way of relating with each other and with the environment also. For me, it has been very interesting to see that food can always be, in a way, like a subject, or a medium, or a material, and not just an object of observation, but also an active agent, an active participant of the conversation, and that our bodies and our knowledges are the mediator between also how food is perceived, how food is discussed in those spaces, and it can have so many manifestations, from the domestic labor in the kitchen to how the cattle industry is destructing the environment and the resources, and then how the sovereignty of our bodies is tightly interwoven with the sovereignty of the land. So for me, it has been interesting also to further like the conversation and the debate around what food represents in the arts, but also what food represents in society nowadays. And again, in different scales, how we can discuss those topics without falling into moralistic approach or top-down approach or judgmental approach, but more of a convivial discussion around the table. So I think we're here at CAB in particular, in Patagonia, in Tierra del Fuego, this isolated place. First, to create like a moment of suspension, a zone of respiration in our daily life, but also in our practice, in a moment where it can feel suffocating also sometimes, of our role in the ongoing collapses that we're experiencing. I think Patagonia has a power of dealing with scarcity and resources, and scarcity and abundance at the same time. And this history, this memory of abundance and scarcity, how do they interlock with each other? How humans have also interact with this abundance and the scarcity. And also just because the fauna, the flora have been more investigated, but the fungi is still very unknown. So I guess with the project, we're also interested in giving access, giving visibility, but also creating content, reflection in a collaboration and discussion with the local expert and people from the field. Also, in order to give them back to give back to this territory, this knowledge, so then a memory can be built around it. So, yeah, it's kind of adding a new layer to how we interpreted this space, this environment, and how can then this interpretation that we have as individual, but also as a group, how that can be again kind of re-metabolized, re-digested by the next people that will come here and that will also interact with what we've done, as much as how we interacted with the past of this museum, the history of the first settlers that came here, looking for a better life, but also at the same time extracting the resources around. So yeah, complexity is also definitely like a topic that is, I feel, important to address in this project.